Assalamu alaikum, my dearest brothers and sisters, and welcome back after the short break we've just had. As I mentioned, if someone doesn't learn, how would they even know what an obligation is so as to do it? If someone didn't learn, how would they know what are the sins so as to avoid them? Ibn Hibban narrated in his Sahih that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, رُبَّ قَائِمٍ حَظُّهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ السَّهَرِ وَرُبَّ صَائِمٍ حَظُّهُ مِنْ صِيَامِهِ الْجُوعِ, which means one might find a person, and who is saying this? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, one might find a person who stays up praying at night, but only gains tiredness from their prayer. And one might find a fasting person who only gains hunger from their fast. One of the reasons that a person only gains tiredness and hunger from their acts of worship is because they did not learn the religious knowledge, and thus they performed invalid prayers and invalid fasts. So, this hadith emphasizes the importance of learning the personal obligatory knowledge of the religion, because it is only through this knowledge one learns about the obligatory matters and how to perform them in a valid manner. It's also beneficial here to be reminded that having a good intention without following the rules of the religion is not sufficient. Because many people, they say, oh, but Allah knows my intention. Allah accepts. Of course, Allah knows everything. But look at this. Al-Bukhari, Muslim and others narrated that a person once stood to pray, and after finishing, he saw the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and gave the salam to him. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied to his salam and said to him, "Irji' fasalli fa innaka lam tusalli," which means go back and pray. You did not pray. In other words, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that he had not performed a valid prayer. The man tried a second time, and again the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, go back and pray. You did not pray. He tried a third time, and again the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, go back and pray. You did not pray. Eventually, the man said, I do not know any other way to pray. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? The Prophet did not say to him, it doesn't matter how you pray, as long as you have a good intention. No. The man kept trying. But each time the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him to go back and repeat the prayer. When the companion then said, I do not know any other way to pray, what did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam do? He sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught him the way to pray, the proper way. In other words, for one's deeds to be rewardable and valid, one needs to observe at least two matters. One needs to have a good intention, and one needs to act in a way that agrees with what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught. So having a good intention alone is not enough. And doing the deed perfectly but without a good intention is not enough. Yes, the deed is valid if the conditions and the integrals are met and the invalidators are left. But it's not rewardable if one does not make their intention in doing this good deed for the sake of Allah. And this can only be done by first learning the rules of the religion. Now, my dearest brothers and sisters, it is even more dangerous when a person does not learn the obligatory knowledge in the issues of belief and therefore has a wrong belief about Allah or about the Prophet ﷺ or about something else amongst the basics of belief. And what an unfortunate situation to be in, to be ignorant about the basics of the Islamic creed despite possessing much wealth or many worldly qualifications, BSc, PhD, you name it. In a hadith narrated by At-Tirmidhi in his Sunan, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna rajula la yatakallamu bil kalimah la yara biha ba'sa yahwi biha fin nari sab'ina kharifa," which means a person might utter a word that he thinks harmless, which results in him falling into hellfire to a depth of 70 years. 70 years. When would a person say a harmful statement while thinking it's harmless? It's when they are ignorant of the consequences. They don't realize that what they are saying is sinful. Why? Because they didn't learn. And look at what the Prophet ﷺ said. He informed us that it would cause such a person to fall into hellfire a depth of 70 years. What's the significance of 70 years, you might ask? In another hadith, another Sahih hadith, narrated by Imam Muslim, the Prophet ﷺ told us that the meaning of falling into 70 years into hellfire is falling to a depth which is the bottom of hellfire. Falling into hellfire to a depth of 70 years is to fall to the bottom of hellfire, which is a place that is specific to the kafirs. In other words, a person may say something that he deems harmless, but because of what he says, he falls to a place in hellfire that is specific to the kafirs. In other words, by this statement, he falls out of the fold of Islam. Now, some people, they say, I'm not yet ready to learn. However, allowing oneself to remain in ignorance is not a light matter, because ignorance can be extremely harmful. A person should learn the religious knowledge even if they are committing sins. This is because the one who does not know that something is sinful will not even try to stop doing it and repent. They might commit certain sins over and over and over again until the angel of death comes to them. This is why it's important, my dearest brothers and sisters, to wake up now and learn, so that we are not amongst those about whom some scholars said, some people are asleep and only when they die, they wake up. Amongst the reasons why a person starts by learning the basics of belief, the Aqidah, the chapter of belief, is because one's good deeds are not rewarded in the hereafter if one does not have the correct belief about Allah. This is as Imam Al-Ghazali said, لا تصح العبادة إلا بعد معرفة المعبود, which means the acts of worship are not valid unless you know the one whom you worship, unless you have the correct belief in Allah. May Allah guide me and you. Know that it is obligatory upon every accountable person to know that Allah is the only God in His dominion. Allah created the entire world, both the upper and the lower, the arsh and the kursi, the heavens and the earth, and what is in them and between them. All the creation is subjugated by Allah's power. No particle moves except by Allah's will. Allah has no manager for the creation with Him and has no partner in dominion. Allah is attributed with life and is Qayyum. Allah is not seized by somnolence nor sleep. Allah is the one who knows about the unforeseen and what is evidenced by His creation. Nothing on the earth or in the heavens is hidden from Allah. He knows what is on the land and in the sea. Not a leaf does fall, but Allah knows about it. There is no grain in the darkness of earth, nor anything which is moist or dry, but is inscribed in a clear book. The knowledge of Allah encompasses everything. He knows the count of all things. Allah does whatever He wills. He has the power to do whatever He wills. To Allah is the dominion, and He needs none. To Him belong the glory and everlastingness. To Him are the ruling and the creating. Allah has the names of perfection. No one hinders what Allah has decreed, and no one prevents what He gives. Allah does in His dominion whatever He wills. Allah rules His creation with whatever He wills. Allah does not hope for reward and does not fear punishment. There is no right on Allah that is binding, and no one exercises rule over Him. Every endowment from Allah is due to His generosity, and every punishment from His is just. Allah is not questioned about what He does, but rather we are questioned. Allah existed before the creation. He does not have a before or an after, an above or a below, a right or a left, an in front or a behind, or a whole or a part. It must not be said about Allah, when was Allah, or where was Allah, or how is Allah. Allah existed without a place. He created the universe and willed for the existence of time. He is not bound by time, and He is not designated with a place. Allah's management of one matter does not distract Him from another. Allah is not subject to delusions. He is not encompassed by or conceived in the mind. He cannot be imagined in the mind. He is neither formed in the imagination nor pictured in delusions. He is not fashioned in the mind. He cannot be grasped by delusions or thoughts. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, which means there is absolutely nothing like Allah whatsoever, and He has the attributes of hearing and sight. A fundamental belief of all the prophets, and we know all the prophets from Prophet Adam alayhi salam up to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam are Muslims. A fundamental belief of all the prophets and their followers is that nothing is similar to Allah. Nothing is similar to Allah. And amongst the evidence of this fundamental belief is verse 11 of Surah Ash-Shura, Surah 42. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. This means there is absolutely nothing like or similar to Allah. There is absolutely nothing like or similar to Allah. Among what this ayah teaches us, that Allah is not a body and does not have bodily attributes. So Muslims believe that Allah is not a physical light, and that Allah does not have eyes, hands, face, fingers, legs, feet, size, shape, limit, or color. This fundamental belief of all the Muslims was summarized by Imam Dhunnul al-Misri, who died 246 after the Hijrah. He said, مَهْمَا تَصَوَّرْتَ بِبَالِكَ فَاللَّهُ بِخِلَافِ ذَلِكَ, which means, whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is not like that. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is not like that. Another fundamental belief of all the Muslims is that Allah is neither in one place nor in every place. And the question where, in other words, which place, and how, in other words, manner of being or physical description, do not apply to Allah. Moreover, Allah created time, and time does not lapse, does not pass upon Allah. Hence, Allah exists without time and place. In a Sahih Hadith, Al-Bukhari narrated that our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, كَانَ اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْءٌ غَيْرُهُ, which means Allah eternally existed and there was nothing other than Him. And note, my dearest brothers and sisters, when he or his or him is used in reference to Allah, this does not refer to a male gender, because in English, he may refer to other than a man, just as she may refer to other than a woman. For example, in Old English, it was said, the sun is so hot, we cannot face him, or the ship she sailed. This doesn't mean that the ship has a female organ or a son has the male organ. No. So this hadith, كَانَ اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ شَيْءٌ غَيْرُهُ, which means Allah Ta'ala eternally existed and there was nothing other than Him. It means that Allah existed and there was no time, no place, no space, no air, no direction, no up, no above, no left, no right, no ahead, no behind, no sky, no earth, no darkness, no light, no soul, no spirit, no father, no son, no sound, nothing, no language, no body, no color. There was no created thing. And after creating everything, Allah did not change. Allah did not acquire any new attribute. Sheikh Fakhruddin Ar-Razi, who lived over 800 years ago, conveyed the unanimous agreement, ijma' of the Muslims, that Allah is not in one place and not in every place. He said, إن عقد الإجماع على أنه سبحانه ليس معنى بالمكان والجهة والحيز. This means the ijma' has been established upon the saying that Allah Ta'ala is not with us in place, direction or dwelling. Similarly, Imam Abu Hanifa, who died 150 after the Hijrah, who lived over 1,300 years ago, he said in his book Al-Fiqh Al-Absat, كان الله تعالى ولا مكان قبل أن يخلق الخلق وكان الله تعالى ولم يكن أين ولا خلق ولا شيء وهو خالق كل شيء. This means Allah existed and there was no place prior to creating the creation. Allah existed and there was no such thing as where, no creation, no anything else. And Allah is the creator of everything. This statement of Imam Abu Hanifa addresses the one who asks, where is Allah? Meaning, in which place is Allah? We say this question, where, does not apply to Allah. This is similar to the fact that we don't say we don't know how many sons or daughters Allah has, but rather we say sons and daughters don't apply to Allah. In other words, the question how many children does not apply to Allah, and where does not apply to Allah. Put effort, my dearest brothers and sisters, to attend the circles of knowledge, to attend and learn and teach others what you have learned. The Prophet ﷺ said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, which means convey from me even it is one ayah. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.